What's going on, it's the RapNerd, and I wanted to put this message here before you watch the video and let y'all know that what you're about to see with this next footage is old because you're going to see it and wonder why the background is different. So this video was initially broken up into two parts. I put the Why I Love Halloween 1978 out maybe a year or two ago, and it did okay, you know, based off of what I was working with back then. And then I put part 2 out last year during halfway to Halloween, and it literally didn't get much of views or anything. So to do the franchise the service I feel like it's worth, I combined both videos to make just one longer video about why I love Halloween, because it is my favorite franchise and we're nearing Halloween, so what better way to celebrate the holiday and the classic film, the film that's my favorite of all time in any genre period. So this is both videos combined for why I love Halloween 1978. So I figure this is a perfect time to show you my love for Halloween 1978. Before I actually get to the movie, I'm gonna give you a little bit of story time. So as a kid, right, it stems from the holiday Halloween. Ever since I was a kid, like I just said, I've loved Halloween. I mean, the idea of dressing up like your favorite character and going door to door to get free candy, sign me up. Love this time of year. I love the decorations, love the pumpkins, love the jack-o'-lanterns. I love the autumn leaves changing colors. I'm a fall baby, born the 27th, so that probably has something to do with it. But it stems from the holiday. Always loved it, right? So being introduced to horror as a kid through Goosebumps and like Are You Afraid of the Dark? As I got older, started to learn a little bit more about horror. Not to mention my dad said my name, Jason, came from Jason Voorhees, so that already stuck with me. And I knew about Jason Voorhees, liked it from what I did get to see. And as I got older, I started watching more of the movies. And didn't know about Halloween, Michael Myers, none of that, until maybe about 6th or 5th grade. I forgot which grade it was, but I was young. And you know, when it's Halloween season, all of these channels are playing Halloween movies, horror movies, all the time, right? The first movie I saw that brought me into the franchise was Halloween 4. And I remember seeing that movie, and I was like, oh, this dude is kind of like Jason, but it just takes place during Halloween. Like, the decorations are there, it's got trick-or-treating, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, this is like a horror movie infused with my favorite holiday. Sign me up. I love it. From that point on, you know, I ended up seeing more of the movies as I aged. And it's funny because when I was younger, the first one was kind of like my least favorite, because in my eyes back then, it wasn't as flashy as all the other ones. And anybody who knows the franchise can contest to that's what makes the first one so good, because of the lack of being overly flashy. It's just really good cinema, and it's just practical. So that's where it derived from. And then, like I said, as the years kept going on, I fell in love with the first one. More and more, I watched it. Every single year I watched it, and I'm just like, this movie is fantastic. And now, in my age, you know, where I'm at now, and then being a filmmaker myself, it's just so much about the first Halloween that I love. I'll start with, you know, I guess the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. Michael, in my opinion, is the best slasher because, like I said, he's similar to Jason, but Jason is very expressive with his movement. Like, if you see him walking, you see him going like, you know, he has his shoulders moving, you know, when he might be panting hard, you can see him breathing like. So while he doesn't say anything, his body language is very expressive. Michael is not that, you know. Michael is literally the absence of anything. He walks regular, even when he moves, it's real stiff and just robotic. Stab somebody, it's all of that, grab your head. It's nothing flashy about the way Michael Myers moves. And I think that paired with his face, you know, the mask being, you know, expressionless, it just does something different, because it's kind of like, it allows the viewer to kind of put themselves in Michael's shoes, to kind of think about what is he feeling, like, you know, like during these killings, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that you don't get with any other killer, because all the other ones are expressive in some way, but Michael is just, he's just there doing his thing, not saying anything, not doing any quick movement and all of that. So off the rip, Michael is just the best in my opinion for there. And then another thing I like about Michael Myers is it's probably one of the only horror movies of, like, of course, the big five, you know, of the Mount Rushmore / adding a face to Mount Rushmore. He's the only character out of these horror legends that perfectly combines the camp and the seriousness. Because, you know, with Jason and who else? And Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy, their kills are so over the top. It's like, it's definitely campy. Like when you see them kill people, it's just kind of like laughable because it's so extreme. You don't take it serious. And on the other end of that, you know, you have Leatherface. His kills are very brutal, very violent. They feel real, and it's almost like when he does it, nothing about it is funny. His movies aren't funny. Like they're dead ass serious, terrifying. And then Chucky kind of falls on the camp side, but it's camp. His kills are campy or serious, but because he's a doll doing it, it adds a certain level of camp to it, so it kind of fits in that structure. But Michael, his kills can be over the top, but they're framed in a way that makes it feel dangerous, and you feel it. Like, for instance, Halloween 1978. I'll use that. When he stabs the dude in the wall, he just literally just hung up. That's like over the top. Like that is 100% camp, but it's not played for laughs. And I think that's what makes the kills different in these Halloween movies than anything else. Yes, they're extreme, but they're not framed or presented in a way that's laughable. And I just really love that. So it kind of makes the people conflicted. The audience is conflicted when they see it. It's kind of like, no one's laughing. Oh, that was kind of crazy. This movie, in my opinion, is just good old filmmaking. It's no tricks. It's no overly complex things going on with the movie. It is just good old filmmaking. It's proof that minimalism and accuracy can work from time to time, because this movie was shot for $300,000 back in '78. And if you look at that now, you probably could reshoot the entirety of 1978 Halloween on a phone and probably get similar quality. For them, they're free. But there's a reason why no movie looks as good, feels as good, sounds as good as Halloween. It's just the small details, the small minimalism that makes up the large picture. The tracking shots, the wide shots, the use of lighting. For example, there's some of the best shots ever in this movie. Like, we all know that shot with Laurie, you know, against the wall, and you just see Michael Myers' face just pop up. Like, that is brilliant lighting to be able to get that. And there's even more. Like, one of my other favorite shots is this wide shot of the house, and you just see Michael Myers' silhouette, tiny, just sitting there, and the wind is blowing. That, when the wind is blowing in, you know, in the clothesline, and you see him through, you know, through the white sheets and all of that. It's just so many small intricacies that make the large picture so wonderful, man. I think the script, like I said, it's streamlined. It's not overly complex. I think that it's one of the few movies that doesn't offer any real answers to anything, but it still works. Like, if you think about it, the first movie doesn't give you any type of connectivity as to why Michael is doing this. We don't learn until the second movie that they're supposedly brother and sister. But the first one doesn't give anything. And I think it's done so well because of the execution. It's the script being streamlined, because you have a character like Loomis trying to figure out why Michael is this way. He's saying he's just pure evil. He doesn't know why. I look in his eyes and it's black. I don't see anything. It's void of anything. Like, I don't know why he's doing this. And it just creates this mystery about Michael. Like, why is he killing people? If you thought the movie, he's just killing random people. And he just so happens to go after Laurie at the end. Movies do that now, don't offer explanations, and they end up being a train wreck. This one works. Another thing about this movie, again with the minimalism, it's the music. Like, it's all of this came from a keyboard, but yet it's so effective. It proves that you don't need to have a big band. You don't need to have the best technology. You don't need to have a big engineer studio to make an effective theme. We all know that theme. We all know that. Opera tone under it, it just blows the room up. And then you got the rest of the score with just even more minimal keys. These are all small things that make up the big picture. And every time I watch this movie, I'm just like, this is so fucking good, because it just feeds me as an up and coming filmmaker. I see the shots and I see everything, and I'm like, I can do that. I just have to be precise as possible. Like, the jump scares in this film, I've seen this movie multiple times, and I still get got by the jump scares. When Michael rushes out of the kitchen to stab old boy, or when the plate comes through the window when Loomis is in the old house, or when Mike smashes his hand, there's so many things that still hold up to this day. When you sit down and just plot out what you want to do, you can do a lot with a little bit. And to me, Halloween 1978 is always a reminder to me of that. You can do a lot with a little bit. May not have everything, but as long as you got a camera, you can make it work however you can. And it stands the test of time. It's still fantastic. Still a great movie. This is a filmmaker's movie. It's just what you can do with a film. Are there some flaws to it? Yeah, some of the acting isn't the greatest. Some of, the story, again, not having a real explanation. But guess what? It's directed masterfully. And the acting that does go on is done masterfully. Jamie Lee Curtis built a career off of this movie. So that says enough as it is. I rewatched Halloween today. There are some things that I left out. There are some really crucial points that I want to actually put, and add to why I love Halloween more on the filmmaking side. This movie is phenomenal. Watching it more and more, it's just apparent to me that it's God tier filmmaking, and that's not just because it's old, or some people think because it's older it's better. No, I just think the filmmaking was pure. There wasn't as much to work with as there is today, so it involved a lot of creativity, especially with the budget being so low. Another thing about the Halloween movie is the atmosphere. If you watch the movie, you can clearly see that it's not fall. Like, it's in the middle of summer. I think the leaves are mad green and it's kind of rainy. It still does such a great job of capturing such a haunting and dangerous atmosphere about it. Even the night of Halloween, like it captures it so well without having to do too much. And it's all based on just direction and production design. The little things that they do, like adding leaves to the ground to make it seem like leaves fell. I mean, so many small details that if you haven't watched it many times like I have, you probably wouldn't pick up on the fact that it wasn't shot in fall. This camera movement does not get enough credit. This is something every horror director should study, because it's the small things that make a difference, bro. Like Carpenter holds sequences for so long that just builds the tension out. Like, there's scenes when people are walking to a room and look different places and he doesn't cut. I see that in a lot of horror these days. They'll cut to different stuff, thinking that it raises the tension. In some places it does. There's certain ways to do it, but what I see a lot of people do, when they cut it to like a character might walk into the room and then they'll cut to like a close up of their face and then cut to them looking at something. I'm like, how much more tension it is if the character walks in the room and the camera just follows them around as they're looking at things, because you've already presented that Mike is somewhere in this room. For instance, when Laurie walks into the house looking for her friends, and she walks through the kitchen, we don't know where Mike is, but we saw Mike in a scene prior in the closet. So the whole time we're just like, is he there? Is he there? Is he there? She even goes for the door, but stops. And it's all in one frame. It's not cut. So it just really raises the intensity so much. And it cuts to scenes when you need it. And I feel like that it just has to do with working with what you have. It probably was a thing of, if I remember, it's more expensive to shoot on film than it is digital, especially back then. So it's more of a thing like, okay, do we really need to cut this scene and cut it up, or can we just keep it on the lead right now and move with them to help build the tension? I don't know if it was accidental or if it was by design, but it does it a lot in this movie. And I think that just, increases the intensity so much. I'm not saying that it's the right way to do it or the best way to do it, but I find in horror films, when you keep the viewer in the shot without changing it, it just builds so much tension in the movie. And you can see this is one of those things that other filmmakers within the Halloween franchise have also latched on themselves, right? I also think the characterization is great too. You don't really know anything about any of the characters like that, Laurie's dad is a real estate agent, and that's about it. The officer's daughter, you know that her dad is an officer. But other than that, you don't know much about anybody. And they still manage to give everybody a sense of character. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is a different person. Laurie is the girl next door, while the other two her other two girlfriends, one being promiscuous, if you will, and then the other kind of being the middle ground of both, you know, who was more spunky. I'll say that she's more spunky, but the other one was ditzy. And then you have Tommy, who, of course, you know, him being a kid, and then Lindsay, it's just they bounce off of each other. Dr. Loomis, who we don't know anything about, who just speaks a certain way. So he has a certain, of course, his accent makes a difference, but just his dialect and his verbiage just sets him apart from everybody. The way he speaks is vastly different. Of course, you got Michael. They just do such a good job of characterization in this movie. And that's one of the things that does make or break a horror movie. When you don't really have to give a shit about the characters, but you have to be able to separate them out. Like who is that, why they do these type of things, blah, 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 because it just makes sense of the story. History can be created in the audience just through that context alone. Like just seeing those girls talk and the interaction they have, you already have an idea of what kind of characters they are. And again, that just boosts it more and makes it more personal because you're in the lives of these characters. That's something that a lot of the other Halloween movies don't really do as good. They don't characterize each character like, you know, the original did. Let me know in the comments what you think about, you know, what are your thoughts on Halloween? I'm sure I see these tweets all the time talking about these super famous movies, but what are your real thoughts about it? Like, if you are a fan of this movie, what about the movie really speaks to you? You know, because like I said, it speaks to me a lot. And if you like this content, like, subscribe, and until next time, peace.
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.